coaches are leaving by the truckloads down here. You won't come down here and work for Coach Saban?
I wish I had the opportunity to get back in, and I still think I could coach. But that's very well. That's part of the profession. Some come and some go, but a little bit unusual, maybe from the number of coaches you lost last year. Then looks like several more moving on, and as always the case, some will be leaving on their own, and some will be encouraged to move on. So that's the always evolving door.
Were you surprised about Dan Enos? We were told he was offered the coordinator job. The money was a little lower than he expected. Sounds like Miami maybe offered him $500,000 more. I think Coach Saban gets to the point where he's like, hey, take it or leave it. He doesn't seem to want to get in bidding wars with people. You know, on the outside looking in, you would think, man, if you want to be a head coach, where a better place to be than Alabama? Suck it up for a little while. But evidently, you know, now he's down there. He's talking to the media every day. He's getting to hire some of his own people. Were you surprised Dan Enos chose to leave if he was indeed offered the coordinator's job, even at a lower salary here? Were you surprised he left?
If that's the case, I am, and looks like he's a fairly young guy, and with what supposedly he did, and it shows with two quarterbacks at Alabama improving and doing things good. So I don't know. Might be more of a comfort zone at Miami, and if the pay raise is that much more, I don't know how many kids he's got, and family happiness, that all ties in with it. And like I said, I don't know what all his ties are with Miami, but I think if he was offered the job, he might take a little bit less salary. Years ago, of course, there's nothing like the money he's making now. A guy that I love working for, and Wimp knew him well, and I had a chance to leave Memphis State working for Richard Williamson, and went and interviewed at Mississippi State. Was offered that job down there, and came back, and Richard said, "When you leaving?" I was like, "I'm not leaving." And he asked me what he offered me. I told him, and I love working with Richard. And I said, "You don't have to give me a raise." He said, "Well, I'll give you a couple $1,000." And then when I went and interviewed at Clemson, he came back and he said, "When you leaving?" I said, "Coach, I'm probably going to leave in a couple of days." But I love working for Richard Williamson.
Yeah,
Richard. Anybody ever worked for him?
He was
William,
good.
you're around him, and he's a full-blooded ball coach that just. He's another guy like Coach Stallings that I always thought Coach Stallings deserved another chance, and I thought Richard did too at the collegiate level, but it didn't happen.
Before Dad jumps in, my last question. Curly, I don't think you ever, I mean, when everybody's interviewing, you're all saying the right things. Yeah, I don't mind working. Coach Saban can't outwork me. I'm going to work with him. You say all those things on the front end, but you never really know a job or the environment and all until you get in the fire with everybody. Then 6 months later, you look in the mirror going, oh my gosh, like I thought I could handle this situation. This guy is on me about everything. Is that true? I mean, I know when you interview, everybody's saying all the right things, and I'm going to be here at 6 a.m, and I'll stay all day. And hey, if my son's playing, my wife's okay. She can go and watch it. She will take care of all that stuff because you're trying to get a job. But you don't really know it till you get in it, and sometimes it's a little more difficult than these people realize, isn't it? Am I right about that?
Yeah, to a certain extent. In the case of, I think Coach Saban, I mean, he is hands-on and A through Z in every aspect of the program, from the recruiting, offense, and defense, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But that's part of his talents for his personality and things he believes in, and it's worked pretty dadgum good. But you never know till you get in that total atmosphere and 24/7. Sometimes certain coaches and a lot of other guys have been very, very successful without being so much hands-on, and that deals with the head coach's confidence in his assistant coaches doing it. So there's different personalities and different atmospheres, but it's worked pretty good for Coach.
Yep. Yeah.
We got a little bit of a hot rumor from a guy who might know. He played for Barry and I about Jalen. And the three choices were Auburn, Oklahoma, and TCU. Now, when it comes down to those three, I picked TCU. What do you think?
Well, TCU is, Fort Worth, not that far from Channelview, Texas, Houston area. And it surprised me a little bit. I know the connection when supposedly Jalen visited Maryland and Miami. That's even farther away. But I've said all along that it's just what he fits to Auburn. I always thought Auburn would be a candidate. And then the Oklahoma thing with Kyler leaving, it's making him a lot of money one way or the other. But their style of offense, I said that's a big possibility. But I think TCU needs a quarterback in its home, so that doesn't shock me that those three schools are in the hunt. They're going to get them a great leader and a talented quarterback that can do a lot of things. So it'll be interesting. I guess he's got to do something here about today, tomorrow, Thursday. I would imagine the second semester started, and so it'll get all cleared up. But I wish him luck. I think he's a great competitor and great leader and character deluxe.
Curley, what do you think the Alabama fan thinks about this season? Do you think they thought it was a failure? I know was it a failure? They probably met expectations, or was it a success? What does the Alabama fan think about this Alabama football season?
Oh, down at the gut level and everything, they got to think it was a 14-1. They got to. The true fan, the loyal fan, not the obnoxious ones, eliminate things. They think it was a damn failure, I guess, because it gives them something to gripe about. 14-1, chance to win it all, and throughout the season, at least the latter half, everybody was ranting and raving that this is the greatest Alabama football team of all time, maybe one of the greatest football teams, if not the greatest in college football history, and all of a sudden, they lose the ball game with, and then it's a failure. And I think that they take the mindset maybe of the true fan. They've adopted that mindset of Coach Saban. We're here to play. We're here to win it all, and those kind of things. So,
what does Coach Saban think it was?
Oh, I think down deep it was success, but 4 or 5 plays in a championship game. And usually in a big game, I think I mentioned to y'all before, there was 167 plays in that ball game. And a lot of people had a chance to influence the game, and as coaches and players. And turned out about 5 plays out of those 167. A pick six, that's a touchdown, another interception, drive, a touchdown, missed PAT, kick the kickoff out of bounds. They get it on the 35, then there's a penalty. That drive resulted in a touchdown, the fake field goal. After it was not successful, that miscue resulted in another touchdown. If my math is correct, that's a total of 29 points. So I imagine Coach Saban said if we just eliminate any of those 5 plays, we got a chance to win. So, but down deep in his heart, successful 99% of the season. That 1% cost him a championship.
Well, I think from the pass interception that they made to start the game, it was a different Clemson team. I know they've won before, and I know they've lost before. They just looked, and maybe it's because Alabama didn't play well, but they looked so much more confident. They looked so much more like we're going to get them this time.
It was a big boost. I promise.
Yeah, I thought it got them off to such a great start. That doesn't mean one thing because Alabama came right back and scored. I understand, but it just, to me, they look like a different team mentally to me.
Yeah, like I said, it's amazing what confidence does, and I think they came into the game with confidence. And you got a big play like that, and that just boosted a little bit. But even when Alabama went back and kicked the field goal to go up 16-14, then you said, shoot, Alabama's in it. They're running the heck out of the football. I think I mentioned Alabama had 27 plays in the game of +8 or more yards. The interceptions came on 1st and 10. You know, hindsight is we should have kept running the ball maybe on 1st and 10 and create 2nd and medium or 2nd and short. So there's some things I know Alabama would love to take back. You know, it's always the hindsight. But as the game went on, though, I think the confidence level and Clemson, I thought you could see it in the energy and the effort. I thought they became more physical, and to put an asterisk on what I'm talking about, they took that last drive on -2 or minus, inside the 5-yard line, and ran the ball 14 times and sat on it inside the 5-yard line to run the clock out. So they put an asterisk on physicality.
Currently, a lot of rumors flying around. Of course, Alabama never responds to any of these rumors, which I get, about Steve Sarkeesian coming back. Obviously left, went to Atlanta. He talked about one of the reasons he did was, I guess, getting back and forth to the West Coast to see his kids. It made it much easier. But now he's not in Atlanta anymore. The rumor is he was offered the Arizona Cardinals coordinator job, but maybe he's not going there. There's talk he's coming back here. What do you know about him as an offensive coordinator? I don't think Alabama people really know. He's only did it one game. I didn't think the defense for the Atlanta Falcons was very good, so that certainly doesn't help a coordinator. What's your thoughts on Steve Sarkeesian?
From everything I know about him, an excellent football mind, and he's had some success, and he's had some failures years ago, which just some personal things. But he is an excellent football mind, and I think a plus that he has been around Coach Saban, and I think Coach Saban feels maybe a confidence level in him, and knowing he'll do what Coach Saban really wants to do offensively, and maybe that's a little bit more where Coach Saban can spend more time with the defense. Coach Saban is a brilliant defensive football mind, great organization skills, but sometimes when you can turn one area of your football program over, that you don't have to maybe so much keep your finger on that aspect of it. It gives you more time for your confidence level, and that's defense and secondary. And so I think he feels confident with it, and whether he hires him or not, if he doesn't, he's going to have another good offensive mind on his legal pad somewhere.
I tried to talk to Bruce Arians, but we couldn't get him. Do you remember when they threw that pass and Auburn intercepted it and beat Alabama?
Yeah.
Great garden seed.
But I tell you what, there's another. Bruce is an excellent football coach, and heck, I thought he got out of it for maybe some health reasons, but he's back in it, correct?
Yeah.
And of course, whenever time I think of him, I also think of Freddie Kitchens, and just so happy for Freddie. And Bruce coached him in Alabama, and he coached him hard, and Freddie Kitchens is as tough as any football player I've ever been around. He's equal, toughness wise, as Brett Favre was.
Well, he did take that hat off at the press conference. Oh.
He's a little bit old school.
Boy, he is rural. He's a rural hot dog.
He is now, but boy, he's a loyal person, and he got beat up in practice at Alabama as much as any quarterback I've ever seen. Never complained, never showed the pain or anything.
Well, Stallings will take credit for that.
It was funny that quarterback for the Cardinals they had a little special on him. Talked about what a great guy Freddie Kitchens was, just always positive. Yep. He said that they had a practice. They had one day off, and Freddie Kitchens went and bought a Santa suit and came over to his house so his kids could see Santa. He said that's the kind of guy that he is. Like, he on his off day, he went and found a Santa suit, put it on, and came to the house.
Put on
a
baseball cap too.
Old Freddie's he's old school and old country. I've got a call. As a matter of fact, talked to a lady yesterday that a book or a movie, something they're working on. So I've had a note at the house to call Coach Stallings, check on him. I usually try to check on him once a month, once every couple of months, and I want to congratulate Coach. I said, well, Coach, you got there's a fourth one now. And what I mean is, and I'm proud of it, the former players, Coach Stallings, that became head coaches, That's me, Dabo, Jeremy Pruitt, and now Big Thick, as we call him, Freddie Kitchens. I know Coach has probably talked to him, bubbling over. It happened.
Oh, yeah, he'll spend 30 minutes on that next time we interview him. I know that. Yeah, he'll wear that out. Yeah.
That's what they call him, right? Thick?
Yeah, the players at Alabama, I'm not sure if it was Woody McCorvey or whoever gave him that name because his calves
He is
look
thick.
like
He's thick through the stomach.
You might not could find an offensive lineman if you could just say I want to see some Freddie Kitchen calves on these linemen. You probably wouldn't find him, but he's a competitive guy.
Yeah, good for him.
Well, I try to root for the Cleveland Indians. I have to start rooting for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah,
yes.
That'll be. I talked to Freddie briefly, 2 or 3 days ago, by texting, and we back and forth. And years ago, sometimes you're happy that you give somebody some advice, and it works out the way you wanted it to. Freddie is at a hotel in Dallas, getting ready to interview the next morning with Parcells. Coach Parcells, one of the greatest coaches of all time.
Boy, he was.
And if Freddie has a good interview, Freddie's got a chance to get the job. So we're talking, and at the same time, I think Coach Saban was trying to hire Freddie, and he had worked for him at LSU, et cetera, et cetera. And I told Freddie, I said, Freddie, if Coach Parcells, if you have a good interview, he offers you that job, you take that dadgum thing. And you can coach in the NFL. It's a revolving door up there, and you can coach in the NFL a long time, Freddie. So if you've offered that job, please take it. You can always go back to the collegiate level and get you a job. And he called me back and said, Coach, I had a great interview, and he offered me a job, and he said, I'm taking it. He said, thank you. and I told him, I said, do you remember that conversation? We're texting back and forth. He said, yes, sir. And he said, it's very vivid in my mind right now. But
boy, Bill Parcells. People don't realize that Bill Parcells was the line coach at Ole Miss for Steve Sloan.
Yes, and he's also, I guess, it was at Florida State when he was.
Yeah, Barry doesn't even know Bill Parcells. He's too young to.
I know
but
Bill Parcells.
He's terrific. Oh.
He didn't put up with any trash.
Oh,
he
no, Barry loved him.
Last week we got the electricity went off up here in Tammy's office. Down Court Street, and we didn't get to finish up. We were talking about Dabo, and I think we got cut off. I think you might have asked me something along the lines was Alabama and the future for Dabo and everything. And I think by the time I was fixing to say, I don't think that will ever happen, and I didn't get to finish my reason why. Clemson gave Dabo an opportunity as the interim coach when Tommy Bowden up and retired or resigned at Clemson, so they gave him the interim job. I think Terry Don Phillips was the AD, and naturally, and Dabo and Terry Don had to have a good relationship. Then after about 2 years, it was still so-so. His first 2 years after he was hired, and I think Coach Stallings had something to do with maybe helping him get the job, but. Got that thing rolling. Bottom line is, Clemson gave Dabo an opportunity when he was the wide receiver coach. They always worked hard at recruiting, and I think Barry Don and them realized that. But as time has gone on now, we're dealing, 10, 11 years? His family has grown up there. I think he's got 1 or 2 kids that are walk-ons, and one's the holder for PAT field goal. And they've given him everything that he has asked for facilities and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he's got something going on there special that I just think he will be committed to that, and he'll retire there in 20 years or whatever. And maybe like old Coach Frank Howard did. I think Coach Howard stayed there for 30 years. So I think he's got something going on special in the fact that they were loyal to him and gave him that opportunity there, and he has taken it and run with it. So I think Dabo is a Clemson coach until he gets ready to retire. And I know he's a loyal Alabama fan because of his background. But sometimes, that'll deal with mama calls. One of these days we'll talk about mama calls and what I know about that with Coach Bryant. But anyway, those 2 schools, Clemson, Alabama, they'll be back next year. But I think Alabama still is the most talented team in the country because of the starters coming back and the great talent that they've either redshirted or slowly developing. Another great class coming in. So I think the Alabama people need to worry too much about the future of Alabama football.
Well, tell Tammy I'm following her now on the internet.
Okay. Hey, the other topic we can talk about next week, and we'll know more about it, is Kyler Murray. And if y'all want to visit a little bit about that, and I guess he's made his decision, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's going to put his name in the draft. So we'll talk about old Kyler next week.
He's pretty talented.
Thanks, Curley.
Y'all stay
Thank
warm.
You.